Okay, so up next is the 5-piece combo set, and this was the one that really caught my eye and really made me want to check this out. Uh, just the knife design on it, and even the sheath, or rather the scales themselves, this kind of checkered pattern. You can see it a little in the camera here. You can pause if you want to take a look at what we're looking at. Plastic handle, again, stainless steel, the 50 lumen flashlight in this. So this I'm kind of excited about just because of the blade geometries on these, and maybe they're going to be junk, but if nothing else, like I said about the other one, is it's a beater. It's something to have, and especially if you're getting someone into EDC, you want a beater knife, or you really just want someone to have a blade. Something I've been talking a lot about with my kids, and they're younger, is what knife safety is, and what knives are meant for, and what you do, and how to use them properly. So that's not just a conversation to have with kids. A gift set like this, if there's a knife enthusiast, if you want just something for someone, they're actually really neat, and they can be a really good introduction into, well, the hobby and the craft of EDC or collecting, or in this case, obviously, doing a little more outdoor stuff. That's what Ozark Trail is about. But that doesn't mean that it's just a single conversation. Here's this, it was $15 and you get a bunch of stuff. It's about what it means to carry a knife and what is out there too. Okay, so right out, I'm going to talk about the basic stuff first. One of these little cheesy flashlights. I mean, these are a dime a dozen. A lot of times they can be junk, and I'm gonna guess feels pretty light. I like the silver. The aesthetic of it is nice. I guarantee it gets torn up easy. The seal is junk in there. It's not waterproof. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, this is pretty standard, pretty basic. So not a terrible thing to have, but at the same time, even if you just throw it in your junk drawer, doesn't hurt, 100 lumens, metal body, button feels okay. It's it's always worth having a couple extra flashlights around. You never know if you're just going to need something to give to someone else to use real quick while you're just looking, through the house, and you don't want to turn on lights and disturb the rest of the family. Something else that I have seen, and I cannot remember the channel where I saw it, but I really like the idea of taking this light, or a light like this, and instead of actually turning it into a flashlight, because these are so cheap, because they're everywhere, it's really not going to burn me to do something like this. But you take out the spring, and I could, if I wanted to, reach all the way down in there. There's a spring in there too, or I can just shove a piece of padding or something like that. But you can turn this into a little EDC hiding container. If you want to keep this in your pack and say, I would probably put an extra bead of sealant around here, maybe put a gasket. But honestly, you can keep pills or cash or a lot of different stuff inside of this. You could wrap up medication, you could wrap up and store a lot of things in what would otherwise just be, well, a pretty easy to overlook item, especially if you're, say, camping or hiking. If someone gets into your tent and they're looking through your stuff, something like this probably isn't going to get ganked. Something like a wallet, something like a pill container, something like that absolutely would more than likely get grabbed compared to just a cheap flashlight. So it's, again, nothing is foolproof, but I really like the idea of having something like this as a cheap, easy, kind of indiscreet way to hide things if I wanted to. So cheap flashlight, more than just usable for flashlight. If nothing else, I got some AAA batteries. A little multi-tool. It's like one of those keychain, or rather one of those wallet cards, but this one's on a keychain, so honestly, way inconvenient. I like the saw on this is actually fairly aggressive. You can see it's double toothed, So that's actually not too bad at all and already pretty sharp. Tiny little poorly made Phillips head there. That's made for stripping screws, not actually tightening or loosening. That's a terrible point on that. Little scraper, half-assed flathead. 6, 5, and 4 millimeter. I mean, the best I can say about this is it's a chunk of metal. You might be able to use this to saw a little bit of kindling, but there's no way I would carry this in a pocket as sharp as it is, or hang it off of me. Even with this bottle opener, bottle openers are on literally everything now, so it's a hunk of metal. It could be useful to someone, just not me. What I am more excited about then are these. Now, you saw their plastic handle, and if you can see the pattern, if my camera will pick it up, it was almost easier to see it in the box. All right, camera, we can do this. There we go. That lathe pattern the scales have, that almost checkered pattern. I actually really like the look of this little guy here. Let me grab a small knife to compare this to. You know what? I just realized, looking around, I was going to grab something. These measure out as 1 inch squares, so this just a little over 3 inches. It's really not that much bigger than this little knockoff Vitronox. The problem I have right out of the gate with these is because it's just straight plastic, that is slippery. Like, this is not something I'd feel super secure with. Opening one-handed, you can, it's a little stiff. The grip is good, but honestly, if I was going to use a blade like this or carry this, I would rough up the scale somehow to give it a better grip. But I like the geometry of this little blade. It's got a good grip. We're going to see what kind of cut we get. That's 1 cut. That's 2. Oh, wow. And that's 3. That's actually really good for just steel. I actually like this little guy. I like that it's got the little lanyard hold. It's got the little thumb stud. Honestly, with a little more roughing, this isn't a bad little knife at all. Get into the bigger knives here. Now this one, which, I mean, open, we're at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, about 7.5, 8 inches. It's a pretty good size. If we compare it to the knife in the other one, it actually comes in at just the same length, minus the breaker in the back. And the yellow might be a little cheesy, but again, that's more an aesthetic thing, and I personally like things that I can see if I'm hiking, camping, whatever it is. I like having really visible gear in case I drop it or I need to find it. This has a fantastic feel. Actually, where the clip is being angled like this, if you notice, you know, you can grab a lot of different ways, but as you wrap your hand around this, let's see, here's the clip, so it's kind of nestling right here into my fingers as I grab this. So I'm actually tensioning against this clip to get actually a really awesome grip on this. I mean, this is something I feel super secure hanging on to. The guard on this flip is really nice. The lock is pretty smooth, and just the pop is super satisfying. I'll be honest, I've owned one other Ozark blade, not a multi-tool, but an actual Ozark knife before, and I was not too impressed. I was carrying kind of a bulky one for a while to see if I wanted a bigger knife, and I just couldn't get into it. But this pops open like a Kershaw. It has a super good feel to it. Again, the plastic I wish had a better grip, because I feel like if this started getting really slippery, if I was getting, say I was working, say you're field dressing after hunting, or say you're just working with really messy food, or your hands are muddy or grimy or sweaty, might be a little slippery, although again, with that clip there, it would feel pretty good grabbing. We're gonna try a cut here. That tiny guy, the 3-incher, was great. Oop, Oh, it was doing so good. It was so promising. Let's try a different edge. There we go. Oh, and it just shaves it. So, I am so far super impressed. The liner lock feels good. The edge is great. The grip is great. This might honestly go in my pocket for a while. Probably be something I carry at work. I don't know that I'd want to carry something this big on a regular basis. Most of what I carry is fairly small. I don't really like a 7-inch blade. Sencut rides with me a lot. What is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Well, just about 6, but you can see I just usually like kind of a smaller profile blade. So this guy's a little bigger, but at the same time, for the performance, it's great. The lanyard hole here is plenty big to feed whatever paracord I want. And there's room to do it too. A lot of times what you find with these paracord holes is the way they line up with a pocket clip and make it a little funky. Now, the one thing about the pocket clip, this one's going to be a little higher in the pocket, but if you notice the bolts in there for the pocket clip, you can take the pocket clip off if you want to, but they are not recessed. So when you put this in your pocket, you are going to be rubbing those little screws there. So I really wish these were inset, and honestly, if I play with this, the scales would come off of this pretty easily, and you could play with something like this if you wanted to. I mean, it's a cheap enough knife that, honestly, if I were to take this apart and try to put it back together, I wouldn't feel too terrible about experimenting with something like this. So, yeah, the Ozark Yellow is great. And the final one, this has been the one I've been most excited about. I've been sitting on these gift sets here for a while, just waiting to get into this guy. This was this the Sheepfoot, the almost mini cleaver-esque blade. We'll start here. Let's see. As far as the size, it comes in right at the same as the Ozark 11. As far as the handle, it's an identical handle as far as the grip, the size. It is obviously green, but it is the same handle on this. But you can see, even looking at these two blades, they're about the same width, I would say. I mean, they're both super chunky and super what I would consider sturdy, even being a pretty basic steel. I wouldn't be worried necessarily about this blade snapping if I was putting a little bit of work into it. You can see the tip on this stays super thick right until the point, as opposed to a standard blade. But this guy just has such a big, heavy look to it. I really like the feel. Now, because that blade is so heavy, you can hear and see the way it pops. It's a heavy blade. It takes a second for this to pop out, but the assist on this is really nice. And if I were to carry this around in the outdoors, I'd feel pretty good. The other thing you'll notice too is the curve on it. We'll do this and compare it. That yellow just pops. This blade has that curve out, so it's got more of a belly that curves up, which I personally like when you're working with a blade like this, instead of something like this where you naturally roll your hand to use the tip. You're really not likely to rub your fingers or anything against whatever you're cutting. Whereas a style where if this were just straight and you're working with the tip, you're really having to hold it at an awkward angle or try to get more rub on the cut, where this naturally will lead you away from scraping your fingers. So this guy is absolutely a fun blade. And as big as it is, let's see how it does. So you just have to find the geometry on this blade. Maybe. There it is. And once you start getting into it, I mean, this is impressive. I've definitely seen and paid for blades that don't come out of the box cutting like this. So I'm gonna get cleaned up a little bit here, and then we're gonna do some final thoughts, I think. So this is the Walmart gift set haul, and honestly, I'm really happy about this. At 15 bucks originally, these, yeah, it was these. Hold on, let me check here. There we go. The 6-piece was the flashlight, the multi-tool, the utility blade, the utility blades, the, oh no, where'd it go? The sheath, get everything moved down here in camera, and the mini LED. For 15 bucks, hold on, is this flashlight in here? No, the mini one was in here. At 15 bucks, that's pretty good for this. Honestly, this is worth, in my opinion, right at 15, barely. If this box cutter wasn't in this, it would not be worth 15, it'd be worth 10 maybe. But at 15, this isn't a bad set. I will say, for the 15 bucks for this, I am super impressed. This thing is trashed me, impractical, and honestly kind of dangerous. I would not carry this in a pocket. But for the 15, for some honestly really good blades out of the box, for as cheap as they are, knives that you're not going to really worry about beating up or destroying, and that you can use and feel good about, and honestly maybe get you into something more. That's another big point about a cheap knife. If you find a well-performing cheap knife that has a style, a feel, a blade that you really like, I guarantee there are nicer knives out there in that style, maybe in that steel, whatever it is, that actually is going to feel really good. So a blade like this, even if you don't carry it forever, or you decide it's not actually what you wanted, can get you into the hobby. And it's what I started talking about originally in this video. Why I picked these up is because you don't have to spend $1,000 on something amazing to enjoy EDC or to be practical. You don't have to go out and get a Benchmade for a knife that's going to cut. And so with that, I recommend, it's a little too late now, obviously, but next Christmas, when you see these kits and you think, oh, that's a little bit cheesy, don't pass them up. Grab one, play with it, beat it up, take it out, and see what you think. Let me know if you picked up any of these kits, what you think. If you think I'm way off, if you've been using it or picked one up and you just thought it was junk, let me know. If you picked one up and you're still using something out of one of these Walmart kits, I'd love to hear it. So thank you for spending your time with me, for liking, subscribing, especially commenting. I love to talk about EDC, about all of this stuff. And yeah, just thank you very much. And as always, stay safe, be prepared, and have a great day.